See, I can run them.
Hey guys, welcome to the Rajpod.
This is our 6th episode, and we brought a special guest with us right here. It's Jason. Say hi.
Hi guys. Well, first of all, I do want to say thank you for letting me join you. This is a big accomplishment, let's say, for you guys having your first guest on the show. So I'm honored to be your first guest.
It's a pleasure having you.
And I can't wait to get started.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's get into it.
Yep.
This will be a good one. We're gonna start with basketball this episode. Let's start with centers.
Okay.
How do you feel?
There's been a rise of centers lately, and you've seen back in 5 years ago, or a couple years ago actually, just small ball rising. You've seen a lot of centers just trying to fall into the midst, and you'd rather have shooting or smaller players play that position just to be more versatile and spread the floor. And now you see the two top MVP candidates in my opinion being centers. You got Jokic, who's averaging 27 points now on crazy efficiency, and Embiid's averaging 28, both double-digit rebounds, and it's just been incredible to see everybody get back. So, what are your thoughts?
I think a majority of the success that comes from this really comes from the ability to support these guys and really put shooters around them. You'll see in Philadelphia, you have Daryl Morey coming in there as a GM, and he was able to surround both Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid with shooters. Seth Curry is over there. Yeah. Danny Green was over there, although he's been kind of inefficient recently. He still can shoot the ball. Yeah. And Tobias Harris has been able to get his shooting touch kind of back. So it's been good to see them surround him in Philadelphia. And when you go over to Denver and see Jokic, you see him surrounded by players like Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr. is having a lights-out three-point season. So surrounding these guys with shooters can really make a team successful.
Yeah. What are your thoughts, Jason?
Yeah, like you said, Ray, Jokic can shoot, he can pass. He's a successful player, just like Embiid. They can both do great things. They help their team out drastically. And it was a good note that you said that they've been dominant over the years, but small ball teams took them over in years past. But now they're coming back as bold centers. And a quick note, it's like the Cavs, comparing the Cavs to centers. They destroy the glass. They make teams realize you can use your centers and your big, strong guys to crash the glass.
Yeah.
And a lot of teams are going to use that as a strategy to win games. And then also, like what you said as well, Amaan, is surrounding them with a good core, building based off of them.
Yeah. And Jokic has been so good this season that when they played the Jazz, they had Bogdanović start on Jokic. They didn't even have Rudy Gobert because Jokic is just that scary that they don't want to put somebody a little slower on him. And he even compared himself to how athletic he is compared to LeBron, which was kind of funny. He said he was joking, but it was still cool.
Yeah. But watching these guys has been really fun this year. Obviously, they're balling out. 2 out of the top 3, I think, MVP candidates so far this season. It'll be fun to see how their teams do for the rest of the season.
Yeah.
Moving on, Jason, what do you got? We got Bradley Beal trade rumors heating up.
Yeah, Bradley Beal, the Wizards, just like, for example, Desean Watson, the Texans say they don't want to trade him. Same thing with the Wizards. They don't want to trade Bradley Beal. They think he's the franchise guy, which he's going to get traded. And I say that because the team's terrible this year. The worst in basketball. And everyone can agree to that. He's averaging 35 points a game. 35. He's a good player. And then in 9 years in Washington, he's made the playoffs just 4 times, made the conference semis 3. But he hasn't made it any further despite being on strong teams, for example, with John Wall.
Yeah.
And he's going on a 3rd straight year without making a playoff berth. The Wizards also are looking to go into a rebuild, and it may just start with letting go of Bradley Beal, which a landing spot I honestly think he'd go to is the Knicks.
Okay.
Yes, I'm going to get bashed that the Knicks are a crazy spot to go, but they have assets. They got the money, and if you think of it, the Knicks could actually use them, if we're actually speaking quite frank. And guys who could go is basically Alfred Payton and Dennis Smith Jr. They've underperformed. Yes, Dennis Smith Jr. hasn't gotten the minutes he's wanted in New York, but also they're only getting paid around like $6.5 million, which the Wizards are going to need to be, let's say, creative with their salary cap, knowing they're up there with money. Yeah. But I think they can get the job done with him on the team. I would like to see where you guys think he would go.
My current prediction is New Orleans. I think he'll head over there and play with Zion and Brandon Ingram down there. They have some assets that they're looking to get off, Lonzo Ball being one of them, and they thought they would be a little more competitive this year. Zion's having under the radar, which is crazy.
Exactly.
Like here, but he's balling out this year. And I think to bring a scorer on that team will kind of round them out and really let them compete, even with Zion and Brandon Ingram being at such a young age. I think they're able to compete with a scorer such as Bradley Beal.
Yeah. I can also see the Knicks, but I'm going to go with the boring answer. I'm going to say that Bradley Beal's staying. They have neither side has a desire to trade him, so, like, what else do I have to say? Like, you're just not going to trade him. They're going to have to eventually, probably, if they keep losing games like this and not making the playoffs. But for now, if Bradley Beal's happy and Washington's happy, then you just keep him, right?
Exactly.
And you don't want to disappoint the fans, too, because, you let a star player go, they're just going to go with him.
Yeah, exactly. And although, like, that's what he was saying, every team has an asking price, right? So if they're offered a good package, he will be sent, and that's just kind of how the league works. You could say somebody's untouchable, but if you're offered a decent enough package for them, that's what's going to happen. So there's only a couple guys in this league that are completely untouchable, and Bradley Beal probably isn't one of them right now.
That is true.
So that's what our thoughts on that. And then to finish up basketball, we have Victor Oladipo. A lot of rumors swirling that the Houston Rockets could move him after acquiring him in a deal, the one that sent out James Harden to Brooklyn. But there's a lot of rumors he could be traded out before the deadline. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, just like with the Bradley Beal prediction, if they do trade him, if the Bradley Beal thing doesn't happen and he stays in Washington, which could be a possibility, he can go to the Knicks. The Knicks could use him. They need shooters as well. They can build around him too. And Victor, he's a good player. Okay, I like him as a player. He can perform at a high level, which the Knicks could use to their advantage.
Where do you see him going?
I really don't want him to be traded because I feel like that team works really well. But if we're looking for a trade, I don't see a trade happening unless it goes to the Warriors. The Warriors need more defense on that team, especially because you have Wiggins, who's been okay, but not a great defender. Klay Thompson's been out. So you want a guard playing that position or for defense, especially to help out Curry, too. And a scorer, because Wiggins has been a great scorer, but other than Wiggins, Oubre has been struggling and inconsistent, and Curry, who you got on that team to score, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
I think that's a good spot because the Warriors actually have that Minnesota first-round pick this year. And Minnesota's been looking really bad this year, so that'll probably get into the top 3. And if that's the case, Timberwolves will get it back, but that means it just conveys to an unprotected first-round pick the next year. So that pick is very, very valuable, and I think that chip could be used for Victor Oladipo, or even if they look into it, a Bradley Beal.
Yeah.
So definitely interesting to
see. And it's like you mentioned the Warriors getting him. Well, the Warriors are above 500. Steph Curry's basically carrying the team, and Victor goes there. He could help perform even better. Go on a win streak, maybe 9-10 games. Yes, that may be pushing it a little bit, but going on a win streak, make an even stronger push to be up in the seeds for the playoffs this season, which could be beneficial.
Because Curry by himself can only get you so far, right? Like you see it with Dame too. Like Dame's been playing lights out, but they're capping at a 6 seed right now, and this is without their 2 best players. So you can see the ceiling, but without the players like pushing Curry up, you're not gonna get anything but like a top or like a mid seed in the West, especially in the West.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you guys need a defensive player, fumble, get Coda. Yo, she did it.
All right, let's get into football. So first up, we got Stafford. Jason, what do you got?
So Matthew Stafford was traded to the Rams. Everyone knows that it happened last week. It was a deal that no one saw really blowing up this much. It was because the Lions got Goff, a 3rd-round pick, a 1st-round pick, and another 1st-round pick. The 2 first-round picks is for 2022 and 2023. This year they get that 3rd round pick.
Mhm.
A lot of people are going to wonder, did they give up too much? The Rams, I honestly think they do, because they think that their team is a Super Bowl winning team.
Mhm.
They don't think they need these draft picks. They don't think they need to do anything in the draft. They think the QB position is their only issue.
Mhm.
That they fix that, it solves the whole puzzle basically. Which I don't honestly think they can win. They're going to be competitive this year. They are competitive. Let's just say in the beginning of the Packers game, even though that it didn't look sweet for them at the end. But I honestly do think the Rams gave up too much to Stafford. This is their 8th straight year without a 1st round pick. It's just like Ryan Pace with the Bears. He has a tendency of trading away 1st round picks. The Rams just don't care about 1st round picks, let's say.
Yeah.
You'll see on the Pat McAfee show, he was actually talking about the value of 1st round picks. And he was saying a lot of GMs will tell you that the 1st round picks are valuable, but having secured real talent, like that's proven in the NFL among grown men, is really more important than having to take a chance on somebody who might be able to do that, right? So it is interesting. I do think they did give up too much, but again, you could argue either way because Jared Goff's contract was also taken off in this deal, which was a big problem for them, having overpaid him way too much money after that Super Bowl. That being said, they are not able to trade a 1st round pick until 2024, which is a big deal. Like, that's a long time from now. We got 3 years until then, so that's 3 1st round picks that now you don't have anything on day 1 of the NFL draft. So it'll be interesting to see how it pans out. Do I think they'll be competitive? Yes, I think they have a great roster, and I think they're the favorite to come out of the NFC. But it'll be interesting to see what happens in their future.
They've always had a bad history with the Rams. I mean, with the 49ers, though. And that 49ers team's coming back completely, pretty much. And if they do get a quarterback or a better quarterback, like maybe Watson, which hopefully doesn't happen, then you're going to see a very competitive NFC with the Packers, with us, hopefully, and then Rams and 49ers. And you got to feel bad for the Cardinals because that NFC is just so stacked. Like, it's crazy.
And when you talk about draft picks, like the value of 1st round draft picks, unless you have possibly one or the first 3 draft picks in the draft, they're not as valuable because you can trade them away to get a better player, a draft pick in later in the draft, because if you see a guy falling off the board. Because another thing, basically, their window, in my mind, is only going to be open for 2 years because you're going to need draft picks to save team needs for when guys leave the free agency.
Yep.
And their salary cap is $109.9 million because of Aaron Donald, Jalen Ramsey, Stafford, and the list just keeps going on.
Yeah.
But like you both said, the Rams are going to be competitive, but they only have 2 years in my mind.
That's
Stafford's only under contract for 2 years as of now as well. So it'll be interesting to see what they do if they re-sign him. He's only 30 years old. So it should be interesting. He should be available for the next 8 to 10 years, I think I would say, because quarterbacks are getting into their 40s now.
He's very talented.
He is very talented. I think he'll be able to fill that role for a long time, but it'll be interesting to see what happens after the next 2 years without being able to replace talent, like you said.
Yeah.
Next, another quarterback in this quarterback carousel we have this offseason. We have Derek Carr. A lot of teams are looking at Derek Carr this offseason if the Raiders were to move him. We have Chicago Bears, Indianapolis Colts, and Washington football team as some of the teams that would look to trade for him. Your thoughts on that?
I feel like Washington's good with Alex Smith for now because they were 5-1 with him before he got hurt. It's just the problem is that he gets hurt too much, right? And then you got the Colts who definitely have to get a quarterback at this point, and then the Bears, who we'll sadly talk about later in this episode, do need a quarterback too. And Derek Carr's a pretty solid option for those 2 teams. And it's sad to see Phillip Rivers go because Phillip Rivers played pretty well in that spot. But, Washington doesn't need him, I'd say.
Yeah, the Colts have the draft pick set up to potentially get a QB in the draft, depending on, for example, where Mac Jones goes. Because in a lot of mocks and a lot of projections, he's going to fall toward the bottom or the middle or the bottom part of the draft board. But that's not bad, really, because I disagree a little with the Washington football team, and they don't need a QB. You have Alex Smith. Yes, he can get hurt. but he's a great QB in my mind. He's gonna win the Comeback Player of the Year award, guarantee in my mind. But and Taylor Heineke's your backup. Yes, he performed great in the playoff game.
Among the teams that we were talking about with Chicago Bears, the Washington football team, and the
Colts.
The Colts, we also have the Patriots. Jason, you want to expand on that?
Yeah, the Patriots, they're going to look for a QB probably. Cam Newton, yes, he had an up and down year. He he was great in Carolina. Then he got hurt. Then he came to New England, had COVID, wasn't able to practice with the team for who knows, I don't remember how many weeks. But then he was slow to perform. And the Patriots, they don't want to get a rookie QB, even though I would like to see him potentially draft a QB, build him up, for example, like Brady. But Brady's different because he's the GOAT. But Derek Carr, he's a veteran. You may want to get him possibly for Cam Newton. Cam Newton could fit well in Las Vegas, and Derek Carr could fit well in the Patriots. The Patriots want to win. Yes, they only had 7-8 wins last year, but Cam Newton struggled, all right? The QB is the engine, basically, of a team. And I could see the Patriots getting the mix with drafting or trading now for a QB.
Yeah. They'll definitely be looking into a quarterback this offseason. I don't think Cam Newton will return. Be interesting to see where he goes. A lot of people saying Washington football team to get back with Ron Rivera. We'll see how the carousel ends up working out. Yeah. Next up in our carousel, we have Carson Wentz. A lot of trade buzz today. You got some news on that?
Yeah, so around 2:45, Brandon Robinson reported that the Bears have a top offer for Carson Wentz, an aggressive offer that unless any other team does come in the mix, the Bears are probably going to be the proper landing spot for Wentz. It did not go into as much detail as what could be traded from the Bears, but it looks like maybe a first rounder and maybe a third or fifth rounder, depending on what the Bears want to do on what their draft plan is. But that was reported around 2:45, like I said, which could be a good fit for the Bears. But you also have to think Nick Foles is there too, and they may not want to reunite again together.
I was thinking Foles would be sent back in the deal. My prediction for the deal would be a first, a third, and Nick Foles heading over to Philadelphia, and you'll receive Carson Wentz. As a Bears fan, I wouldn't personally be mad at this. I think having Carson Wentz on a roster, QB coach, the Bears QB coach, John DeFilippo, actually succeeded with Wentz in 2016 and 2017 when Wentz was playing MVP-type caliber football. It's a good situation and fresh start. Wentz struggled really only last year. The year before was rough, but he didn't have many weapons. Again, he didn't have many weapons last year, but he just didn't get along with Doug Peterson. I think a new, fresh start in Chicago would be a good thing for him, and I think he can succeed in Chicago.
I'm excited to see it. The only reason I'm pretty excited for this trade is because we get off Foles, we're getting a new QB, and he's going back, hopefully MVP form if he gets that right QB coach, and that'll be nice to see a new change, a new chemistry. In the Bears
for sure.
What are your thoughts?
Okay, next up in the carousel, obviously biggest name going on right now. We got Desean Watson.
Ooh.
So Texans do not want to trade him, although he has officially requested a trade, and their coach hiring has not made a difference in what he's wanted. I know you've done a little bit of research. What does happen if Watson does not end up getting traded?
So the Texans do have the availability to fine him if a player, or any team can fine a player if they don't come to camp, they don't play at camp, and that's what Watson may just do. He's going to have to force the Texans to trade him by doing at least something, which is going to probably be he can sit out camp, he can sit out the season, he'll still be under contract with the Texans, but like I say, he's going to have to force the Texans to trade him, and once they do, it's just going to be time for the Texans to realize we have to trade you, we have to realize it, and he's going to go. He's going to go at some point. It may not be in the beginning of the season, it may be at the end of the season, but that is what he could potentially just be doing in Houston.
It's an interesting situation. You don't see it happen too often. Young quarterback looking to get moved right after signing a contract. Even it isn't even before a contract, right? So he's already got his money, but he's losing out on a lot of money here. $2 million just for missing out on the offseason. And the last time you saw something like this was with Carson Palmer in Cincinnati. He ended up sitting out that season, not going to OTAs, and then sitting out the season. Cincinnati drafted Andy Dalton with a second rounder, and then traded him the next season when they were offered a big deal from the Raiders, who needed a quarterback.
Yeah.
The difference with this is Carson Palmer is, first of all, a lot less talented than a Desean Watson, and Houston doesn't have a second-round pick. They don't have a first, they don't have a second. So it's not like they can take a quarterback to just start right away, especially in the cap situation that they're in. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. It's unlike anything probably.
And for
we've ever seen
Watson's
before.
sake, I feel like Texans just have to be mature about this and just trade him at this point.
Mhm.
Because Watson's been super patient with this organization, right?
Yeah.
And he's done so many good things for the community. He's done so many good things for Houston in general, and he's been just he's a good person, and they just got to grant his wish at this point, right? Because he's done so much that you just got to be a nice organization at this point.
Next up, also in Houston, we have the J.J. Watt
falling
rumors that
apart.
are flying. J.J. Watt, due to cap casualties, probably played his last game as a Houston Texan this season. He's owed $17 million, and that can be cut to $3 to $4 million if he's released or traded. So it'll be interesting to see where he goes. We got predictions. Jason, what do you got?
Well, as you said, Adam Schefter did report this on Sunday morning, that Watt might have played his last game as a Texan. And my predictions, basically, it's going to be crazy. Now, predictions are supposed to be crazy. I'm supposed to go out there on predictions, which I am. Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Buccaneers, yeah, you could say they have a great defense, which they do, but they need D-line help. They need the help there. And Watt's flexible to play defensive position on that front line because he can replace anyone who they do lose to free agency, which is reasonable to say that. And Tampa Bay isn't afraid to get veteran guys. And I say that because look who's your QB. Tom Brady.
Yeah.
And he's a veteran guy. And the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are well positioned for the next two off seasons with cap space, so they're really flexible right now on who they bring in, who they do potentially let go. But Watt could fit with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I think also with Shaquille Barrett leaving probably after this season, depending on if Tampa Bay wants to re-sign him or not, you can replace him for cheap with the J.J. Watt signing. I think J.J. Watt would take less money to play somewhere that for a team that just contended for a Super Bowl. He'd take that kind of money. A lot of veterans have done that with Tampa Bay. You've seen Antonio Brown do that, LaShawn McCoy, Le'Veon Bell did it with Kansas City. So you see a lot of people trying to jump on the bandwagon and join a contender, and I think J.J. Watt would welcome to do that. I personally see him going to Green Bay. Again, another contender. They do need D-line help, especially on the edge run game. So it'll be interesting to see if he goes there, where he goes. We'll see.
I could see him going to the Bears if he signs for cheap, because if Akeem Hicks goes away because they need cap space at this point, and Deshaun Watson J.J. Watt signs for cheap, then why not get more help on defense? Even if you already have some good players at the position, why not get better, right?
Yeah. They're going to need D-line help if Akeem Hicks leaves. He does play the defensive tackle position, a little bit different. But again, J.J. Watt is flexible, so he'll be able to play there too. So not a bad take at all.
And you could also see, like, Brady was actually the one who suggested getting Antonio Brown on the team because he wanted to bring in back some guys he used to play with. And you may see that from Brady. He may see, all right, Watt's on the trading block. They're going to probably want to let him go. And he's going to look at the future of the team and say, let's get Watt.
Yeah, let me get that guy right there. He's done it before, like you said, so I think that's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
Next up, so actually to end our episode this week, we're going to do a Super Bowl predictions. So what do you guys want to, or Jason, you go first. Who do you got for the Super Bowl?
I got Brady winning his 7th ring. Yes, you could see Mahomes. He's a rookie QB. He could be considered the baby goat of the league. But I think Brady and the Buccaneers have a lot more power, let's say, with their defense. Yes, the Chiefs have a good offense. They can march down the field if they're up on a team, if they're down on a team. But if we think the Chiefs, you gotta think their concern is their secondary against Evans, Goodwin, Gronk, and even Brady. But then the Bucs, they can march down the field too. They scored 30 points their past 6 games, which averages around 35, 36 points. Unlike the Chiefs, only 25. And points per game matter in a span. But then your last concern for the Buccaneers is the 3 interceptions Brady threw against Green Bay. Yes, he was pressured. Yes, he threw the ball up on one-on-one matchups because you could see the advantage going to the Buccaneer wide receivers. But Brady's going to have to play his A game if he wants to get his 7th ring.
I see the Chiefs winning this one because in shootouts, Chiefs have been great. They're even though they've had very tight games, when they need to turn on the switch, they turn on the switch every time. They have so many weapons on the offensive side of the ball that I don't know how even such a good defense like Tampa Bay can stop them. Even in the regular season, which doesn't matter as much, they also won. And you see these matchups that Chiefs have just been able to blow out some really good teams. They almost went undefeated this year. I don't see them losing.
I personally am going to take Tampa Bay for this one.
Interesting.
Previously I did have Kansas City, but Tampa Bay, I think it's going to be a defensively heavy game. I think the defense that steps up will end up winning the game, and I think Tampa Bay's will step up before Kansas City does. Both teams have pretty good defenses. I'd say Tampa Bay's is definitely better than Kansas City's, and I think if their secondary is able to step up and kind of cover guys like Tyreek Hill, Travis Kelce, this will be a Tampa Bay win for sure.
Unlike you, I see this as a shootout, though. Because you got 2 top offenses, right? Even if Tampa's defense is so good, it's the Chiefs, right? Who's going to stop Mahomes at this point? Nobody really.
Yeah, and another little fun fact is like Todd Boyles, defensive coordinator of the Buccaneers, was on the original staff of Andy Reid when he was in Philadelphia. So they know each other's schemes a little bit more closer than the other coaches on the Buccaneers, but that may be a key factor as well, which I could see happening as well going toward what you said, Amaan, with it's a defensive strong game.
And I agree with what you guys are saying too. It's just the when it's the team defensively that makes the stop at the end, and I think that could be, or that will be, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It could be a shootout, but I do think the team's defense that really steps up at the end will be Tampa Bay, and that's why I have them.
Sometimes you even see bad defense, great offensive teams and bad defensive teams also having like defensive heavy games too. Yeah. So it's whatever in football. You can't really predict it sometimes.
It's a toss-up, but it'll be a fun game to watch, man. I'm excited to see this. A Brady-Mahomes matchup is not one you want to miss, for sure.
Exactly.
All right, I think that that rounds off the episode.
Well, that's it, guys. Thank you guys for watching. This has been Rajpod episode 6.
Shout out to Jason for hopping on with us. It was a blast.
It really was.
But yeah, that's it for this episode, and we'll see you guys next time.
Yep, see you guys.
Yeah.
We ain't hesitating, bullies get the blazing. I'ma lay 'em down like